It's time for the 8-Minute Devotion. The 8-Minute Devotion is a daily message that fills you with hope and encouragement from the Word of God. Here's your host, Pastor Cameron Walcott.
Hello, and welcome back to the 8-Minute Devotion, our Thursday episode, and I'm so glad you've chosen to spend these 8 minutes with us, 8 minutes of hope, 8 minutes of joy, 8 minutes of encouragement from the Word of God. You know, if you have a question you would like us to answer on a future episode of the podcast, we invite you to email them to us at the8minutedevotion@gmail.com, or you can leave it on our Facebook page. You can leave it in the comments of this YouTube video, those of you watching on YouTube. You can email us or leave a comment, the8minutedevotion@gmail.com. We would love to answer your questions in a future episode. I'd also like to ask you, wherever you watch or listen, please rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast. If you're watching us on YouTube, subscribe, like the video. Same with Facebook. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Audible, wherever you listen, please subscribe and please give us that 5-star rating. It will help us get this podcast to as many people as possible. We're in a series right now called Christmas for the Hurting, looking at this great truth that the Lord cares about us. In this season of great joy, if you're going through pain, the Lord cares. And in Isaiah 9:6, the prophecy of Jesus coming, when it says, "Unto us a child is born," we're given as well these little insights of how Jesus meets with us who are hurting, meets with us who are in pain during this season. Isaiah 9:6-7, "For to us a child is born, to us a son is given, and the government shall be upon his shoulder, and his name shall be called Wonderful Counselor, Mighty God, Everlasting Father, Prince of Peace. Of the increase of his government and of peace there will be no end." Today I want to start looking at this phrase, he is the Prince of Peace. If you're going through a difficult time, if you're going through a time of pain and loss, remember this. He is the Prince of Peace, and he wants to give you peace in this season. You know, I've talked many times about the fact that I played basketball in the past. I still coach a lot of basketball, and I'm coaching my son's JV team this year. But I remember one specific game against our arch rival in my junior year. We were winning by 1 point with less than a minute left, so the other team fouled me to try to get the ball back. I had to shoot free throws, and I was never a good free throw shooter. I was always about 50%. But I remember these were the most pressured free throws I was ever going to shoot, and I made 2 out of 2. They fouled me again, after they didn't score. I made 1 out of 2, and the whole gym was going wild. But I remember in my mind just being able to slow the game down. I remember being able to slow down, make the shots, win the game. That was a great feeling. Later in my senior year, I actually had another game where we were down 2 with 8 seconds left. I made a shot and got fouled. If I had hit the free throw, we would have won. You notice I say if, because I missed the free throw in front of a crowded, screaming gym of fans, and we ended up losing that game in overtime. That time I could not get the peace in my mind, and and my team lost the game. You know, the difference, the one time I was able to slow things down and tell myself it will be okay. The other time my mind was racing. It's a challenge, of course, for athletes. But also in this season, some of you may feel hurried. Some of you may feel you can't slow down. Some of you may feel you can't find joy. The Lord wants to give you real peace in this season, especially if you're going through pain and hurt and grief. The Lord wants to give you real peace. Isaiah 9:6, the child would be born, and one of his names will be called Prince of Peace. You know, this comes in Hebrew, this is the name Sar Shalom. Prince is the Hebrew word Sar, so the Hebrew word Sar translates to our word prince or captain, and of course Shalom, you've probably heard, is the Hebrew word for peace or wholeness, completeness. So Sar Shalom, Jesus is the Prince of Peace, and I want us to consider him today by this name, the Prince of Peace. You may be going through great fear. You may be going through great anxiety. Maybe the losses you've experienced recently have caused you to live in a state of panic, to live in a state of anxiety, to live in a state of fear. Maybe it's just such upheaval in your soul because of what you've been through. If that's you, he is the Prince of Peace. He is the Sar Shalom. Jesus wants to meet you and give you peace today. Ephesians 2:14 puts it this way: for he himself is our peace, who has both made us one and has broken down in his flesh the dividing wall of hostility. It says Jesus himself is our peace. Friends, one thing I want to leave with you today, one thought I want to be at the top of your minds, deep in your hearts. Peace is a person. Peace is not just a metaphorical concept. Peace is a person. It's not just a metaphysical concept. Peace is a person, and that person is Jesus Christ. And Jesus wants to speak peace over your life today. He wants to speak peace over your situations today. Jesus came as the Prince of Peace. Jesus stepped into a noisy world of clamor and violence, political intrigue and oppression, but yet he in himself brought peace. Again, we might imagine, well, look, Jesus, when you came to the world 2,000 years ago, it was different. It was peaceful. You know, today, our world is so much more difficult. We have wars and rumors of wars. We have wars all over the world. You know, in the news, things going on in Ukraine with Russia, things going on in Israel. All over the world, we have wars and conflicts. And we think, well, Jesus, your world was easier. And, you know, we have everything going on social media and our phones and so many voices. We say, well, it was easier 2,000 years ago. But what kind of world did Jesus step into? He stepped into a world of violence. He stepped into a world of war. He stepped into a world where the Jewish people were being oppressed by the Romans, where, you know, nobody was safe, where the soldiers that, you know, they could decide to punish at any time, the Roman centurions, where there was intrigue among the Jewish leaders trying to always hold the people down. He stepped into such a difficult world. But yet what did he do? He spoke peace. He modeled peace. He was the Prince of Peace. His peace replaced the violence. His peace offered hope and rest into the heart of every man and woman who would place their faith and trust in him. You know, beyond everything going on around us, we live in a busy world of striving and searching. We live in a world of economic anxiety, healthcare problems. We live in a world that aims to take away your rest. But Jesus came to give you perfect rest in him. We can trust in him, the Prince of Peace. The Prince of Peace wants to be your peace today. Put your trust in him, and you can have peace in the middle of any storm. That's the thought we're going to expand on tomorrow. But for today, remember, peace is a person. And if you're feeling that turmoil, that grief, that overwhelming sadness, that overwhelming fear, ask that person, Jesus Christ, to rule and reign in your heart. He will do that. He will give you perfect peace. Thank you for watching and listening. We'll be back tomorrow on the 8-Minute Devotion.
Thank you for listening to the 8-Minute Devotion. Please subscribe, rate, and review the podcast wherever you listen to or watch it. And email us at the8minutedevotion@gmail.com with any questions or comments. May God bless you.